Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy with Blue. This channel where you find the truth, seek understanding, and be the light. I just wanted to bring something up. I don't have any videos this time, but I just want this is like legit, like thinking and processing because a friend of mine had sent this, and I was like, it brought a level of conviction because me being a new parent, both for an older child and a younger child, it's like I'm trying to figure out maneuver. It's tough. It's tough. And I'm only 33 or 34. I don't even know anymore. But the interesting thing is like trying to learn, trying to understand, and trying to grow and trying to see how, I was growing up and how I could make things better with my kids, but at the same time understand where there were some flaws and how I can prevent those things from happening. But the thing that's interesting is that even though I try to look at all the mistakes that my parents possibly could have made when I was younger growing up, those mistakes led me to who I am today. And it's crazy because if anything, any one of those mistakes that they did was actually done correctly, that could highly change me at the end of the day. So it's like trying to navigate is tough, but then it's like there are these certain things that are kind of like a good base to start with. And then when I saw this, it was very interesting. So these are just a couple of slides here, and I just want to bring this up because they're very interesting. And we're going to go by them one by one. Hopefully this doesn't take too long. This is from Millionaire Steps. So it says, what if letting your kids choose their hobbies is the reason they never become exceptional? Middle class parents ask their kids what they feel like doing. Rich parents don't. That alone is heavy and deep because every time when I look back at my life, those kids growing up, there's a level of discipline that develops with kids when they are taught discipline early on. And even for myself, like nothing against my parents, they weren't really too strict on me doing things. Had I continued playing the piano when I was younger, I would have probably continued being a piano player. I would have been more inclined with music. I wouldn't be struggling with music as I do right now. Because me as a bass player, I still don't even know notes. I don't know, like there's a whole bunch I still don't know. I play off of ear and that's it. I barely know where certain notes are on the bass. So that goes to show a lot about, how much I know, and that can pretty show how much I don't know in regards to music. But if I had stayed in that, then that possibly could have pushed me to do better, especially when it comes to like, I don't know, even learning Creole. I'm the one American where I had to learn Creole myself. The Creole that I know was based off of the desire to learn later on in my life, in recent years. And but that wasn't due to a force. That wasn't due to a discipline that was forced upon me, where it's like my relatives. And the one thing that I definitely noticed and I feel like is true is that most of the people my age and younger that actually do know Creole, they're either were born in Haiti, or if they were born here, they were raised by their grandmothers. Because I don't see any parents that's living in America that's teaching their kid Creole. They either got to work or they're doing other stuff. And if they're in this new age, they have other stuff that they're more worried about than teaching them Creole. So this statement is very interesting, and it really like cakes in the mind a bit. Let's keep going. Tennis lessons aren't optional. Piano isn't optional. Language classes not optional. To outsiders, it looks strict, and it does. To wealthy families, it's a strategy. Guys, in my new walk, there's just something about discipline that is just that just rings, that just sits in me differently. I have a new deep understanding and realization of how important it is to maintain the discipline, to maintain the focus, to maintain mastering something. Because if you don't master anything, then you're pretty much borderline useless as far as like your capabilities and what you can do. And even as far as serving, your abilities become very limited with the lack of mastery of something. Elite parents don't see hobbies as entertainment. They see them as mental programming. Piano equals pattern recognition. Honestly, because I played the bass, the reason I was able to learn the bass so quickly was because I remembered what I learned playing the piano. If you could memorize the piano, or if you could learn the piano very well, all other instruments, I promise you, will be a lot easier. Maybe drums will be different because you're using your whole body, but the rest, it should be a lot easier. That's just coming from a musician standpoint. Chess, strategic thinking. Chess will do that to you. I suck at chess, hence my strategy sucks. I normally just go in with my face. So I don't know. Sports, resilience, and grit. Yes, because of sports, because of having to drive, having to press forth and do more. This is true. These aren't activities, they are advantages. All these things really help with life, guys. It's not just a matter of putting them in something, just putting them in something, but it's a matter of learning and growing and how you can utilize that into the farther end. People just think they just put their kids in sports just because they want to put their kids in sports and have them do something. And then you have the other side, which is I'm putting my kid in sports so that they could be my ticket to, the pro league and, getting money and wealth and stuff like that. But there's never that middle ground where you're pushing them for something, but you're not trying to get them to the pro league. But at the same time, there is some entertainment, but it's not just to do whatever. There's this level of you're doing this to grow as an individual, and that requires discipline, even on the parent side. That's crazy. Repetition wires the brain. Structure builds discipline. Discipline creates competence. Competence creates confidence. Confidence creates opportunities. That's not luck. That's, oh my gosh, that's design. There's this one guy that I know. There's a couple of guys that I know, geniuses. And this is where I see the difference between how I was raised and how they were raised. There wasn't much discipline how I was raised, aside from, going to school and stuff like that. But that was about it. These guys, they were disciplined, they were taught, they were given that repetition, and they exceed in what they do. Exceed well. I struggle with exceeding in just about anything that I do. It's tough, and I'm learning that now, and I'm trying to make a difference now, and it's tough to do. But when you already have it in there mentally early on, while your brain is starting to develop, it stays, and then it creates the confidence for you to go out and do whatever. I look at some of these dudes and the way that they are high confidence. You don't, yeah, they may have some times where they're down, but it never affects them, and they're always pushing forward, and that confidence creates opportunities. The situations that they're in is because of that confidence that was developed within them when they were young, and then it just leads to success. This same applies to the word, and when we're teaching our kids how to read the scriptures and follow the gospel and all that stuff. Repetition. When you have these Bible verses that are in your head, when situations come up, you remember them, and then you overcome the situations that you are. When you had that discipline to just keep building that when you had the structure to keep building onto that discipline, you then are a weapon of the Lord, because you know the word and you understand the purpose and you understand what it is that we're supposed to do. When you fill it out, and then you become successful in things that you want, because now God can utilize you in ways not just of a whim, but something that you can press forth with. Every forced practice session secretly trains consistency, frustration tolerance, focus under pressure, and long-term thinking. Meanwhile, ordinary kids simply play. That's tough. That's tough in a way of, that's hard for for parents, even for me to like really gulp down, because all the people that are consistent in the sports, they have some level of this. If not one, they have all three. If not three, then they have at least one of these, and they can utilize that moving forward into life. Now, that just goes back into what about those that go into sports, and then when they get to college level and they don't do college and they don't do sports anymore, and then they just don't know what to do with their lives? Now, there's a difference. Like I was saying, a lot of people that are doing this, They teach them not to be professionals, but to have an understanding and to build these types of characteristics so that they can use that further in life into their next phase of life. Not by those are the people that try to push and do nothing but that sport or that instrument or whatever it is in hopes of getting far, in hopes of getting to that professional league. But when actuality, just being in those sports and those activities will get you these or some of these that you could then push forth into life. So then now when you're at work and you're dealing with high pressure, you know how to focus under high pressure situations. You know how to navigate. Long-term thinking, depending if you're project oriented or even at an analyst level, you're able to put your mind past certain things. You're able to project, have foresight, and be able to plan efficiently. And just being consistent, guys. Consistency is a really big thing. Just if you don't have any of these, just having this goes such a long way to just continue and continue. But of course, you still have to have that mind to realize when you're just caught in repetition and when to get out or understand where you're at and not be brainwashed. But consistency is important. Critics say this crushes creativity, but here's the paradox. Structure in childhood creates freedom in adulthood. Untrained freedom equals chaos. Disciplined foundation equals power. There's a lot of people, I know for a fact, there's going to be a lot of people that feel a certain type of way about this right here. They will say differently about this. This can be debated. And as a matter of fact, go ahead and put in the comment section exactly how you feel in regards to this, because I have heard some things and I have heard and seen some, trainings and, parenting stuff that say that we shouldn't allow our kids to just be robots and be structured. And we need to have some level of freedom. That is absolutely correct. And I think that's what's important here when we look at the words. It doesn't say freedom goes to chaos. It says untrained freedom goes to chaos. I think that's what's important. Because yes, kids have to learn, kids have to grow, kids have to be free. They have to see things for themselves and be able to figure things out for themselves. But when it's untrained and they're just out and about and they're not corrected, that's when we have the chaos. That's when we have problems. That's when they're free to think things their certain way without any direction. And then when that solidifies, then we're wondering, how the heck did this person even turn up like this? Well, because nobody corrected them. Nobody provided them the guidance. Nobody showed them the way that things should go. There is freedom in the way that we think. We just have to make sure that it's trained and corrected when it needs to be corrected. Most parents think, let's let kids find their passion first. Elite parents know passion appears after competence. You rarely love what you're bad at. You love what you become great at. And in order to become great, you have to work at it. You have to be consistent with it. Dang, guys, this is crazy stuff. And that's kind of where the success comes from. It has to be with a consistency. Because if you say, oh, well, my kid, I don't think it's something that he wanted to do, then it just becomes, oh, let's find their passion and see what they're good at and stuff like that. Nah, bro, that's not. If it wasn't for my mom and my parents putting me in music at the church, I would have never had a desire for music up until this day. If they were consistent with my music, I would have been way better at music. Even when it comes to basketball, I played basketball when I was younger, and there was some issues that happened because I was pretty consistent with basketball until I came down to Georgia, and there really wasn't much that was going in there, and there really wasn't much extra outlet activities for me to take part in, for me to practice in and work on my craft and stuff like that. So the discipline on there kind of lacked off, but that was because we were in a new environment and the need for me to play basketball wasn't that deep. The importance was that I was in school and that I graduated. Nothing against my parents. That's just a lifestyle that it has. But now that, I'm out here trying to play in these leagues and age is creeping up on me. Just my skill level is starting to show and all that stuff. That's because that discipline wasn't there for me to just be consistent. Whereas to one of my buddies, great basketball player, and he's been playing consistently. Granted, he hasn't moved until he came down here to Georgia a couple years ago, but that discipline was still there for him. Kids who try everything often master nothing. They learn quitting, they learn boredom, they learn inconsistency. Specialization builds identity, identity builds excellence. I'm not, bro, guys, it's kind of hard to refute this. It's kind of hard to refute this. I would like for somebody to come in the comment section and refute it. I'm not going to say I have an answer to whatever it is that you have, but like, I've seen this personally. I know somebody right now who's a genius, master genius. And if he sees this, he may know that I'm talking about him. But I also see that there's a lack of consistency in trying to progress and overcome certain situations because of how smart he is. The second where there's something that actually becomes difficult, I've noticed that there's some backing out on whatever it is that he's doing. I think he's starting to realize that now and actually putting that foot forward. And granted, he's young enough to where it's okay for him to do that. But it's a real thing, y'all. It's a real thing. By adulthood, elite trained kids already have emotional stamina. I believe it. Confidence of mastery. I believe it. Proof they can do hard things. Yep. And competitive nervous system. That is wealth you can't buy. One camp, childhood equals soft, comfort, ease. The other, childhood equals train, structure, and intention. One raises adults who chase comfort. One raises children who command environments. Guys, I'm going to leave this right here. You can kind of see already the Instagram page. If you guys want to see see the rest of these, go ahead and do that. This is a tough one right here because this all goes into where you will fall. I can see this easily turning into somebody that doesn't care about other people if not checked. I can see this as, the soft, comfort, and ease people that we see, but then there's no grit, there's no desire to do more, there's no desire to succeed. It's kind of almost borderline a waste, which is a word that I don't like to use. But for those that aren't doing anything, their efforts become very wasteful. This is kind of triggering for me because it's like trying to figure out where you fall, where you're trying to put your kids. Is there a happy median? I would like there to be a happy median here. I think there is. I think that happy median, and some of you are probably going to say something about it, but that happy median is definitely when it comes to following the word. Because when you follow the word, you can be soft, you can have comfort, but you won't settle on ease. Training is definitely involved, and there's definitely have to be some type of structure, and there's intention, but there's not that realm where you're out here commanding environments. You can be a leader, but you can also be somebody that's not a leader, but still be effective in the world. That's all said. This is all said in the Bible. And I guess that's kind of where it gives me that type of peace, because I know people that are very wealthy, that follow the scriptures, that follow the word, that accept Jesus Christ as their savior, and actually put in that discipline into learning God's word in order to please him while also still being successful in life. And it's possible, y'all. It's possible. But like I said, y'all can check the rest of these. This was already deep enough, but I'm going to catch you on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.